This is Chuck Rapp with Multiply, a podcast to provide a word of encouragement for village church planters and leaders. Today we continue our series on the leadership qualities of Nehemiah. There's so much we can learn and seek to follow from this Old Testament leader. Today's episode focuses on portions of chapters 5 and 13. In chapter 5, verses 1 through 6, Nehemiah writes about the complaints he received regarding taxes and the financial despair of some of the people. Verse 7 says, I pondered them in my mind and then accused the nobles and officials. Godly leaders think things through and then they take action. When it is necessary, they are willing to confront others. The narrative continues in the same direction. In verse 9, so I continued, what you are doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in the fear of our God to avoid the reproach of our Gentile enemies? But let the exacting of usury, or the lending of money at unreasonably high rates of interest, let it stop. Nehemiah was willing to confront wrong behaviors. This has been a point of failure for many leaders over the past 3 millennia. Think, for example, of King David, who suffered from this character flaw in his own family. Godly leaders must be willing and able to appropriately, directly confront improper behavior. Those who were wealthy responded in a desirable and appropriate manner. In verse 12, the last half, we will do as you say. And in verse 13, and the people did as they had promised. Godly leaders are also persuasive. If one reads the full account in chapter 5, verses 1 through 12, we see that Nehemiah laid out the situation plainly and explained his rationale. It is particularly important for leaders to do this when it's necessary to confront. People need to not only know the what of correction, but also the why. Finally, we jump ahead to chapter 13, where we see Nehemiah take some strong action. He warned, rebuked, and commanded. Verse 16, he warned vendors against selling food on the Sabbath. 17, he rebuked the nobles for not honoring the Sabbath. 19, he ordered the city gates be shut during the Sabbath. 21, he warned merchants not to spend the night before the Sabbath sleeping by the city wall. 22, he commanded the Levites to purify themselves and guard the gates in order to keep the Sabbath day holy. Finally, in 25, he rebuked those who had married foreign women. Good and godly leaders must be willing and able to confront others when the situation warrants such action. However, I would advise against beating and pulling out the hair of others. Don't follow Nehemiah's example on those things, as we see in chapter 13, verse 25. This has been a word of encouragement for village church planters and leaders.